इसको Namaskar. I, Vimal Batlu, Secretary General, welcome you all to today's event of Digital Communication India Forum, DCIF, a unit of PTC India Foundation, one of the oldest professional bodies in the domain of telecom in India. We at DCIF conduct monthly webinars on topics of current interest in the domain of telecom, broadcasting, and information technology. We have had a number of webinars in the last 1 year, including India's leap forward in technology, Indian stack of 4G plus, applications of electromagnetic waves in daily lives, Indian Telegraph Act 2023, impact on the Indian telecom scenario, leveraging AI, uh, leveraging AI in broadcasting, fifth generation 5G optical networks, digital innovation for sustainable development, building a self-reliant India, the roadmap for telecom manufacturing, Indian innovation for a robust optical fiber plant, transforming learning, how AI is revolutionizing education, a peep into the evolving telecom and broadcasting scenario, the power of AI, enhancing teaching and learning experiences. Today, the subject of our discussion is unlocking the lower 6G band, a new era for Wi-Fi and digital innovations in India. Well, gentlemen, the Department of Telecom India last month issued a gazette notification regarding delicensing of a portion of 6 gigahertz band. This was specifically for 5,925 to 6,425 megahertz frequency band, which constitutes about 500 megahertz of spectrum. The operation in this band will be on a non-interference, non-protection, and shared basis. Users in this band will not be protected from interference caused by other authorized spectrum users, and they'll not be allowed to cause harmful interference to them. Coming to the technical restrictions, the maximum EIRP that can be transmitted by these devices is limited to 30 dBm. The operational restrictions are also there, which prohibits the use on oil platforms, land vehicles, cars, trains, boats, and aircrafts, except when flying above 10,000 feet. And also, communication with the control of drones and unmanned aerial systems are also prohibited. This move aligns India with over 100 countries, including the United States and the European Union. Now, how is it going to benefit the society? This decision is expected to significantly accelerate the deployment and adoption of advanced Wi-Fi technologies like Wi-Fi 6E and upcoming Wi-Fi 7. Of course, there is improved bandwidth connectivity which will happen. It can complement existing 5G and fiber optic deployments. There is enhanced user experience where there'll be faster download speeds, improved responsiveness, and high resolution content like 4K, 8K videos, etc. Besides this, it's crucial for the growth of emerging technologies such as augmented reality, virtual reality, the Internet of Things, which demand high bandwidth and low latency. There are some economic benefits also, which could generate substantial income, economic value through improved efficiency, digital innovation, and reduced costs for businesses and consumers. It can help bridge the digital divide by enabling cost-effective deployment of high-capacity Wi-Fi hotspots in rural and unserved areas. It can spur local design, development, and manufacturing of Wi-Fi-enabled devices, aligning with the Atmanirbhar Bharat vision. By allowing unlicensed use of low-power applications, the spectrum can be utilized more efficiently without requiring individual licensing process. But then these are the benefits which we can expect, but there are challenges also. And to start with, it's the potential interference with other authorized spectrum users, including satellite services and point-to-point microwave links. The industry, some sections also argue that delicensing only the lower 500 megahertz of the 6 gigahertz band might not be sufficient to fully realize the potential of the next generation Wi-Fi. They expect minimum of 660 megahertz. Let's see what happens. The telecom operators have been advocating for entire 6G band to be auctioned for 5G and future 6G mobile services to address the mid-band spectrum shortages. The upper portion of 6G band, that is 6.425 to 7.125 gigahertz, the telecom operators argued that this part is crucial for future rollout of advanced mobile networks. There are many other nuances. To understand them in detail, we at DCIF decided to have a webinar on various facets of this subject. That's unlocking the lower 6G band, a new era of Wi-Fi and digital innovation in India. In our webinar today, we shall be getting enlightened about various facets of this subject with our distinguished panelists. We are privileged to have Shri Paramjit Singh Puri, Senior Director, Membership, Wi-Fi Alliance. He's a seasoned veteran of the ICT industry, having worked in organizations like AT&T, Cisco, Siemens, Compaq, Ipsen, where he was also the MD. He has been promoting and working in Wi-Fi areas and unlicensed areas for 12 years and is closely involved with FICCI and interacting with TRAI and DOT. Our second panelist, Sri Vikram Tivatia, is the Deputy Director General of the Cellular Operators Association of India. He has been with Tata Teleservices from 2008 to 10. He has also been with Confederation of Indian Industries, CII, as their CIO from 2005 to 8. And the icing on the cake is from Indian Army Signals and took voluntary retirement in the rank of colonel in 2005. Before we start with the panel discussion, I would request Shri Pavan Garg, President DCI, for his brief address. Of course, later he shall also be talking about how the satellite-based telecom ecosystem views this initiative by the government. Over to you, Pavanji.
Thank you, Vimalji, and welcome everybody. Most of the initial remarks about the topic today, they have already been covered by Vimalji. So I would like to only supplement that the DOT's Gazette notification informs about the government's move or proposal to delicense this lower 6 gigahertz band for Wi-Fi after 30 days of their publication in the Gazette. And comments or suggestions, if any, within that time, that means up to 14th of June 2025, that means about 10 days, 12, 11 days from now, they can be sent to the DOT. They have given the email for that. So if anybody has any comments, suggestions to that notification for further amplification or improvement, these can be sent. That is one. And as was mentioned by Vimalji, the delicensing of any band, and especially this band, has many benefits as well as challenges. So we will be discussing those points, and I would like to hear all those things and also join the discussion from my side also, as Vimalji mentioned, to the extent possible. And as based on my experience, both with the satellites technology or satellite systems, as well as with the spectrum management. So I will not like to take too much of time at this stage. So thank you very much, everybody. And Vimalji, you can please start the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you for your address, Pavanji. Now, we would like to listen to the opening remarks by our today's panelists. To make the webinar more interactive, I would request the participants to pose their questions in the chat box so that they find their answers during the course of this webinar. We shall start with Shri Paramjit Singh Puri. Yes, Paramjit ji, you can start with your.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for giving this opportunity to come and speak in such an august, section of people sitting over here, all veterans of the telecom and the ICT industry. Yeah, so that's pretty good. Yeah, and I'm glad to see that DCIF has taken this initiative here. So yes, as far as the Wi-Fi industry is concerned, and as far as the Wi-Fi Alliance, which is the main Wi-Fi body which owns the trade name of Wi-Fi, and we are an industry and trade organization having close to 1,000 members. And also, I like to point out that amongst these members, we have more than 50 of the top global telecom operators, service providers, also who are very valued members there. So yes, this decision by DOT to open up the 500 megahertz in the 6 gigahertz spectrum is India's first real systemic reform for Wi-Fi, arguably ever. And that's exciting, very exciting for the Wi-Fi industry and for everybody, I would say. Yeah. And here I would like to, which I always point out, wherever, I'm speaking, we've been speaking in the past, in events organized by the BIF, by ITU, APT, and, other events, that we are not in competition with the IMT industry here. Worldwide, the IMT industry and the Wi-Fi industry has been working hand to hand. And probably, and I also say this always in any of the events I'm speaking, surprisingly, India is one of the few countries where I don't see, the telcos and, the Wi-Fi and the technology companies working hand to hand, or rather, the cellular and the Wi-Fi world, working hand to hand, for some strange reason, the telcos have not, taken into Wi-Fi. They've not, invested into Wi-Fi. Unlike, the other parts of the world, the Western world, and, within the APAC region, countries like, Korea, Japan, China was doing, but China is not now doing it. But rest of the other APAC countries, both the developed and the developing countries, they're doing it. And the Western world, and including, the Americas and the EU, there is a great synergy between the telecom operators, cellular in business, and, the Wi-Fi, which is there. So yes, is this decision spontaneous by the DOT? Here I would like to give some credit to, some of the institutions which originally mooted this idea. And, yes, I'm talking about, our TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. Actually, TRAI actually moved this, in the year 2022, and it floated consultations asking, how best to use the 6 gigahertz bands. And in 2023, it actually laid out options, to go the full China way, or license the whole thing to telcos, or go the US way, license the entire 1200 megahertz for unlicense the whole 1200 megahertz like USA, or split it in between, which we actually now are proposing. Yeah, and TRAI had actually recommended the splitting option, and so that was the thing it was there. And it even warned that Wi-Fi in India had long been throttled by limited availability of public spectrum, and that delicensing was the only globally harmonized and economically efficient way forward. So yes, sometimes our institutions, do work, and we need to give credit to them. And sometimes we don't notice it, because through the noise of the industry, lobbying or jargon, and things like that. Yeah. But yes, I like, Vimalji has pointed out, Pavanji has pointed out, that there are many benefits of the Wi-Fi, opening up and in the 6 gigahertz, and I can talk so much about that, because Wi-Fi is not just a technology like IMT industry says, cellular is the infrastructure part, is Wi-Fi is also an infrastructure. Only difference is that, it's not as straight or vertical layered. It's probably more fragmented, but it is very scalable now in the 6 gigahertz. And, it allows, for offering services today, which probably the IMT world may not be able to offer to that extent, in terms of, making sure that secure connectivity for critical services, including for the education, healthcare, remote work. And this we're talking about, fast and cheap, infrastructure, fast and cheap service, which is unlike the IMT. And I always like to say over here that it's a coexistence between the IMT world and the unlicensed world, the licensed world and the unlicensed world. And just to give an idea that today, there are more than 21 billion Wi-Fi devices in use today, more than 21 billion devices in use there. And, you mentioned about AR, VR, XR, then there are things like immersive 3D medical training. There's the flight simulations, aviation training, high definition video streaming, applications of Wi-Fi in space, and there are so many, use cases which are there because at the opening up of the 6 gigahertz uncongested spectrum band provides the capabilities required for those advanced use cases, which needs faster speeds, lower latency, higher efficiency, higher density, and greater reliability. And also scalability to allow enterprises to future-proof their networks there. So, I mean, I'll stop over here because I can just keep on, going on and on. But I think I let the other participants talk now. Yeah. So, thank you, Vimalji.
Thank you, Paramjit ji, for giving us this overview from your perspective. Now, I'll request Sri Vikram Tivatia, Deputy Director General, CUAI, for his remarks, opening remarks. Of course, then we'll have the question answer session also.
Thank you very much, Vimalji, and it is always nice to hear from Paramjit, and it's really nice to be amongst all the old colleagues out here. And despite our age and experience, we are always excited about what's new, what's happening, what's the latest, right? And I want to share this last 15 odd days of last month. We were in Italy and Greece. And you know what? There was no 5G. Which to us, because we were, colleagues who were traveling communication people, and everybody saying, यार इंडिया में तो 5G मिलता है सब कहीं, यहाँ तो कहीं 5G नहीं है, रोम में घूम रहे हैं हम लोग, एथेंस में घूम रहे हैं. So India particularly, on the mobile and telecom connectivity space, is actually in certain ways the envy of many countries in the world as to how we have actually leveraged wireless technology, and in this particular case IMT, to deliver a huge amount of social benefit across the country. Right. I mean, I might have mentioned it in the past, but even at the cost of repetition, let's say GST, okay? India has got one common taxation regime. We had, every state had a taxation regime, and it was so complicated doing business. Courtesy broadband, India was able to simplify our national taxation regime, right? And see the huge amount of benefits. So the point that, in the opening, I have a presentation later on, if time permits, but the point is, let us, identify what is the social and national objective that we want to use various technologies. In this case, of course, we are talking of wireless and Wi-Fi and, IMT goes together, as Paramjit said. To deliver what kind of social benefit or service, right? So you have to keep that part in focus. And with that in mind, now India, as we all know, is a very, predominantly our population is in non-urban areas. While there is a huge shift of population, or whether you call it, labor or population movement from rural to urban areas, right? So that is something which the government in its societal objectives also needs to address. The good part is that ever since the announcement of the National Broadband Mission in 2019, right, and recently the Broadband Mission 2.0, a few months back, the thing which required to be addressed, one, of course, is the right-of-way aspect, but not just the right-of-way part, but aligning the local municipal bodies and the state entities, the central ministries like whether defense or railways or shipping or urban affairs, to come together and see that broadband is something which is not just a DOT issue, right? Broadband has to be the collective effort of a variety of stakeholders. So the National Broadband Mission, at least on the government side, has been working and has upped the ante on aligning the energies and the efforts to enhance delivery of broadband. Okay, one can always come to, okay, what would be the technology, what would the means to deliver this broadband. Now, the next part, in the opening part, I'd like to address, since I was on the rural part, right? In the rural part, the cost of the device, I've said this in the past, I'll continue to say that I think the government particularly, and even I've highlighted it to the USO administrator and others, the cost of a device with every technology becomes more expensive. Because you're not just delivering broadband through that device. In India, I remember when when we launched 4G, one of our members, what you call promoters said, for many people, this device itself, besides being your first phone, is your first camera, it's your first music system, right? It's your first TV, okay? So this device, ye jadoo ki chhadi hai. It's a ninja, the kind of services that it delivers. So what I want to impress upon is we've got 250 million people, the equivalent of entire almost a Europe. Europe's maybe 300, short above 300 million people who are still on 2G. And 2G devices do not support Wi-Fi. Okay, so that is a gap we need to address. And how to address that, of course, while the USO administration and various funds are bringing a fiber to a particular point in the geography or to places where people reside, but beyond that, they do not have a method of an uptick or encouragement of picking up the benefits that the broadband brings, because that gap at the last end, whether it is by IMT or whether it's going to be by Wi-Fi, and of course the form factor of the device on which you would consume it. Okay, so that's a significant gap. Now, will Wi-Fi or will IMT fulfill that gap is something that's open to discussion, as we go along. Now, the other part is that, of course, spectrum by itself, right? Now, spectrum by itself, as we all know, is one of the most potent resources to deliver, broadband. Paramjit, I would like to, recalibrate your thoughts or suggestions. In India, let me assure you, the IMT industry is completely committed to Wi-Fi. We would not be doing such a robust business in FTTH, but for at the end, it is Wi-Fi which delivers it into the device inside a house, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know I don't know how this impression seems to have, got highlighted that, the IMT industry in India is not, very gung-ho about Wi-Fi. We are completely gung-ho about Wi-Fi, right? An average ARPU of a FTTH connection, which, essentially has Wi-Fi at the end, right? Is upwards of 700 rupees compared to an average ARPU of 180-90 rupees. So we love you guys, man. It's not like that, right? So that's, let me make it very clear. We really love whoever we can work with to provide broadband services to a larger cross section of society. So this is there. Of course, there are other nuances. I can, if time permitting, or I don't know, how do you want to structure it, Vimalji, given that we have 1 hour and we've already done maybe 30 minutes. So it may be nicer to have a Q&A oriented,
Yeah,
or if I
think
can.
that'll be better.
Yeah, I think
I
that
have
will
a
be
pres-
better.
Specific to mention in your presentation, if it's something specific which cannot be done right now, it's fine if you have a brief presentation also.
Well, it's a very brief thing. If you want, I can just run through it in very quickly, because that might kind of facilitate, or just bring a focus on the questions which the participants may want to.
You can do it quickly. Then you can share it.
Okay, if I have the rights, let me try and do that.
You please ask for it once you start uploading, sharing.
Oh. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Sorry, let me just scroll up to the. Yeah, is it visible? It seems to be, yes?
Yeah, thank you. But please keep it brief in the interest of time. Thank you.
Very quick. Okay. COAI, we are not just operators, anybody else. Lots of the OEMs are also with us. This, I'll keep it very cool. The challenge area is ARPU, and we'll be happy that, any way we can increase the ARPU. And I'm sure Wi-Fi, as I highlighted, helps us increase the ARPU. The next one is about 5G. But what I would say is emphasize, just see the 4G, 5G combination out of a total of 30 lakhs, right? So maybe 25 lakhs base stations. But the 5 lakhs, the 2G base station still is something that we need to focus on, right? Now, here is something which is interesting. Given whatever Wi-Fi spectrum that we had, so courtesy the launch of 4G and 5G, India has actually moved up the network readiness index in a substantial way. And that's something the entire industry should be given credit for. Here is something which I hope there are questions on. This is the devices. It is the quality of the availability of devices. I don't know what happened. Is the slide still on?
The slide is on. You can put it on the presentation mode. That will maybe be better.
Yes.
We are able to see your slides.
Okay. Somehow it disappeared from my screen, so I was just wondering what did I do? How does this happen? Just give me a sec to put it on presentation mode. I'm stopping sharing. I will do it again. No, stop this. My apologies for this little goof up. I don't know. I clicked some. Okay, here I guess I should be back. Is it back, please?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying the slideshow version. Yeah, is it in slideshow now?
Yeah,
better.
It's
Okay, thank you so much. So what I was emphasizing upon, and some questions on, I'll be happy if we can discuss this a bit more, is the cost of the devices, which I highlighted. Down below, if you see, the good news is out of the 844 million devices, active 5G devices are 271. And typically what happens is the moment you have, most subscribers that we see, if you're on a 5G connection, you're no longer looking for a Wi-Fi connection because, the cost is pretty low. Okay. This one I want to highlight is fixed wireless access, which actually is providing a lot of benefit. And TRAI of late in the last 2 months has started reporting fixed wireless access numbers. And even globally, if you see on the box on top, is that 25% of the data, right, is, where did I go? 25% of the data is on fixed wireless access, which is about 12 times the data consumption versus the normal mobile data consumption, right? And in the bottom, the 3 markets. So India is potentially a very good market for enhancing fixed wireless access. And the 6 gigahertz potential for IMT, of course, there's substantial, we've been asking as opening address, Vimalji, you mentioned, was entire 1200, but the breakdown. The good news seems to be that the lower part, the government's put out the draft, and the upper part in the NFAP, we are given to understand would be for IMT, right? And there is some parts, I think this is old story, maybe we can see whether the entire delicensed spectrum has been put to good use or not, right? And if you see, this is something I want to members to see is the targets of, whichever way you want to deliver the broadband, what the targets, are to be achieved in terms of societal benefit, right? And right-of-way issues, which are applicable even for Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi is predominantly inside a building, right? Yes, outside, but even outside, if you want to put it on a bus shelter, like internationally, you go to Korea or Japan, every bus shelter has a Wi-Fi access point, right? But all those have challenges, both in terms of access to the building and inside the building deployments, power supply issues. So some of the regulatory issues around that. TRAI has come up with interesting recommendations for digital connectivity infrastructure provider, which is a category of license which they suggest as part of the rating of buildings for broadband. This was what we worked with them so that to encourage more broadband inside a building, because maybe 80% of data is consumed inside a building, whether at place of rest or place of work, right? And this is some of that, and it's a summary of what I've just said, and I'm kind of done. So thank you so much for allowing the presentation.
Thank you, Vikramji. We'll come back to you on this particular subject. Now I'll request Pavanji to give his perspective from the satellite ecosystem perspective.
Thank you, Vimalji. And I think Mr. Paramjit and Vikramji, they have covered quite a bit about the Wi-Fi aspect as well as the IMT aspect for the 6 gigahertz band. Now, I'll be covering a few points about satellite aspects as well as about spectrum management in general, if I can put my old hat.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the satellite systems are concerned, so although it is the 6 gigahertz is used for the uplink, the Earth to space direction. However, as most of us are aware, that any interference in the uplink will get transferred to the respective downlink also through the satellite. Number one. And number two, the power of each hotspot may not be very high. It may be low. However, the number of hotspots will be very, very large. Eventually, it will be phenomenally large. And a small contribution from each hotspot multiplied by the very, very large numbers, that can raise the noise flow at the satellite receiver. This has been seen even in the 2.5, 2.6 gigahertz band, which is being used on INSAT for mobile satellite services and which is used by IMT services in other parts of the world, not in India, of course, but the same band which is used by mobile satellite service in India is used by IMT services outside India as such. So the contribution of noise from those hotspots, so not hotspot, but the BTSs and as well as the devices adds up to such a level that the mobile satellite service on INSAT almost became inoperable. So they had to sort of devise very different type of solutions. One was, of course, using very large bandwidth for each transmission on satellite. So that means spectrum efficiency went down, but they had no other option. And also to use lower modulation techniques so that even with the noise, they could at least derive some output data on the MSS. So those are the points which, from the satellite point of view, as well as from the spectrum management point of view, have to be kept in view as a challenge. And also, all of us are aware that once a band or a sub-band is delicensed for Wi-Fi or for any usage, then it becomes practically impossible to license it or use it for bring back the licensing in future as such. So delicensing has to continue in perpetuity, if one can say that. So that point has to be kept in view while delicensing any band or sub-band. Of course, the social benefits, nobody denies, and that's why the government has considered delicensing of this band as such. Some people were saying that why the low power has been delicensed, why could not the power be increased slightly as such? So normally in any band or sub-band, if we are not very sure how the things will pan out, then as a spectrum manager, one would always like to try the lower power levels first. Even in 5 gigahertz, when the delicensing was done initially, it was done with a lower power as such. And subsequently, when everybody had a more confidence level with the usages, they could open up, they could go to the higher power levels as well as open it for the outdoors also, whereas initially it was for indoor only. So these are the sort of steps which, as a spectrum manager and as a sector as such, we have to try so that there is no serious challenge later on for the incumbent users or for anybody else. So these are the points, of course. And another point, I think, which I don't know whether Vikramji mentioned directly or not. Some time back, the telecom operators, they had an argument that they are paying hundreds of thousands of crores of rupees for the spectrum option, whereas the Wi-Fi spectrum is totally free as such. So they said that this is creating a challenge for them because compared to thousands of crores per megahertz which they were paying, or hundreds of crores per megahertz which they were paying, and compared to that, Wi-Fi was totally free as such. But of course, as spectrum manager, we had to convince them that, look, whatever has been done in the overall socio-economic interest. And they themselves are free to use the Wi-Fi bands or Wi-Fi usages, whatever way they feel uh, appropriate. And now, of course, over the years, we find, and Vikramji mentioned indirectly, that the IMT people and other things, they are making use of the Wi-Fi as a complementary service to the cellular services. So, to close my initial remarks, I'll say that Wi-Fi, of course, has a lot of social and technological benefits, but at the same time, it has some challenges. So we have to balance out the challenges with the benefits as such and gradually move with that. So that is what I'll say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pavanji. Actually, you have given the satellite perspective. I mean, I'll come back to you on that subject again. There are a few questions. Of course, Vipinji has a question, but before that, I want to ask Paramjit Singh ji that suppose you don't get 660 megahertz of bandwidth, what are we going to really miss?
Well, that's a good question because you see the actual benefit in terms of the applications we are talking about for AR, VR, AI, industrial IoT, etc. With very low latency and fast speeds. They actually come into play. Once all the 8 bands of 360 megahertz are available. To the Wi-Fi industry. And we did an exercise, in one of the major medical colleges and the hospital in Thailand, the Ramathi Bodhi Hospital, and we completed a 6-month trial over there, along with Meta, HP, and Intel, to show the incongested band of 6 gigahertz supporting advanced medical education and training, as well as dense deployment through the use of AR/VR technologies. And we were able to demonstrate the 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi throughput and low latency benefit, and applications used in medical training and dense environments like 500-seat classrooms and seminars. But when we used in the first scenario, which was in the lower 500 megahertz, it led to some VR disruptions, some motion sickness, some video glitches, and and some failures of very large file transfers smoothly. But in the second scenario, which utilized the complete 1200 megahertz of the 6 gigahertz band, it achieved very high data rates and a very low latency for smooth VR and extremely fast file transfers of very huge data here. So yes, 500 megahertz is like having a hand in the pudding, but it's not like having the full pudding at all. Yeah. And in fact, that is the reason why EU has, still put on hold, giving the upper bandwidth, many countries over there to the IMT industry. They're still contemplating whether should they open it up for Wi-Fi or should they give it to IMT, like US has done. Yeah. So it's only in the US, or Canada that you can really experience, or, in some other countries like Saudi and Korea, for example, where you can experience the full strength of the 6 gigahertz Wi-Fi, where the entire 1200 megahertz is opened up. But yes, you can't crib. I understand that in a country like India, where the IMT folks are also strong, and they have been demanding their share of the pie, whether we'll be able to get the entire 1200 megahertz or not. So probably we'll have to make do with whatever best is available. And as the technology becomes more mature, and we're already moving towards Wi-Fi 8, which will give you speeds of 50 to 60 megahertz, and hardly any latency will be available on that. And those kind of applications, will be available through the Wi-Fi 8, which will be a next step from Wi-Fi 7. But so we'll have to do with the 500 megahertz available currently under the 6 gigahertz. And I'll also just like to point out, rightly so or wrongly so, to the point which Pavan Garg made about, the interference for the satellite transmission. I believe studies have been conducted worldwide and even in India through some of the space research organizations that definitely the Wi-Fi provides, there is very less interference, with the incumbent satellite operators as compared to the IMT technology. So that has been very well proven, not just worldwide, but even in India, that Wi-Fi is a much better technology to have in the 6 gigahertz in terms of interference with the incumbent satellite technology players, etc., as compared to the IMT technology. But like I said, this is evolving, and so we have to just and yes, the DOT has made a right decision of going with the low power currently, and seeing that how the things progress ahead. Yeah. So I'll stop over here.
Thank you, sir. Now, Vipinji has a question. Of course, my request to all is, in the interest of time, please keep the questions brief and also the answers brief. Thank you. Vipinji.
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, Paramjit ji, welcome to the discussion. Good to see you here. Also, Tewatia ji is old acquaintance, and I think techno commercial licensing industry expert. Okay, so welcome to him as well. Now, coming to the question that I had, to me, and what is my credential in Wi-Fi? I have about 5 patents. And also, I've been part of many plenaries, including the one which happened in Germany a few years back. I am Wi-Fi Man of the Year, 2018. So I have love for Wi-Fi. That's the reason I'm asking this question. I think it is very important. Wi-Fi is Ramu of the office. It does everything. So, you give it the task, it does it. But what is happening is eventually this Ramu is doing BTech, PhD, and at times, becoming much more smarter than the, the boss. That's what is happening with Wi-Fi. Consequently, you have now 4K forms in terms of the modulation. Yep. You have 320 megahertz channel. You have multi-linking, and you have all the technology that will make it suitable, including the mobility across the hotspots. All of this is available as of now, and it is not license free. It is available for everybody. Only thing is, it is being now not available for the intent for which it is designed, which is like having the medical devices and industrial devices. Almost everything is happening on Wi-Fi. I would be surprised if any one of you is not on Wi-Fi for this call, for example. The question is the interference that gets generated with ISM to Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi to ISM, both of them to satellite, whose responsibility it should be to make sure that they mitigate the interference? Considering that we want to keep the Wi-Fi devices cheaper, and every device is Wi-Fi device practically as of now, excluding few old this thing. So the spectrum interference issue should be addressed by whom? Is the question that I want to ask to Mr. Vikram Tewatia. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, before he answers the question, I just want to mention that in the beginning, I had mentioned in the opening remarks that the Gazette notification clearly leaves the onus on the unlicensed part. That is, it'll be on the Wi-Fi part here clearly. Now, over to you, Vikramji.
Thank you very much. Now, my apologies, I got a call in between. I might have missed part of the conversation, but certainly, interference in any wireless is a very important issue, and that is the reason why Garg Saab can help us out in that. For the both, so interference, particularly the power levels, or in building versus street level outside, right? So those levels in the Gazette have been indicated, and they have always been indicated whenever you do a delicensing part. Because you just imagine now you are having a larger channel bandwidth and, more simultaneous users in the same room. Maybe Paramjit can allude to that as well, is that, I recollect when Wi-Fi 7 Qualcomm launched a big event here in Meridian, where Soin, their CEO, indicated that the Qualcomm office is being made completely LAN free. Right. So if a company like Qualcomm, basically it is, how do you assign channels within the, channels that are available in the band that are in use, right? So interference obviously will be an important point. And the power levels, as Vimalji you alluded to, are there in the draft. And we as COAI have some observations on that, which we will be taking up with the DOT.
Thank you. Any other question?
Yes, the question that I have is for WPA3 security. Wi-Fi has been, normally said it is insecure, password gets stolen and all of that. And there is a WPA3 security which has come about, and also work is being done on in terms of actually having even better security than what we are used to in terms of two-factor authentication and all of that. So I want to ask this question from Mr. Paramjit Singh. What do you think is the security enhancement tactically that has happened in the Wi-Fi 7 and beyond?
So right now, it's the gold standard for security in Wi-Fi is still WPA3, which was announced about 3-4 years back. But the only thing is that Wi-Fi Alliance and its members have been working every year to come out with new versions and updated versions of the WPA3. So making sure that Wi-Fi, the encryption, the security becomes even more stronger and becomes even more unpenetrable, and and that it is phishing. Of course, you can never say that I'm 100% fail proof. Nobody can make that claim, but yes, it's very close to 99% secure. So yes, every year, every 6 months, we come out with the Wi-Fi Alliance having these 2 labs, one in Santa Clara, California, and the second lab in Taipei City in Taiwan. And then, of course, along with its member companies and the member group who form the security group and the subgroup and the technical group and all that. So we work around the clock to make sure that WPA3 is updated and it's made more secure every year as we go along. Maybe yes, we'll come out with something like the WPA4 somewhere soon down the line, maybe when the Wi-Fi 8 is ready to launch. But right now for Wi-Fi 7, it's only the new versions of the WPA3 which are coming out every year. In fact, in December, we are launching another new version, updated, updates to the current WPA3. So that's what is happening within the Wi-Fi Alliance, along with its member companies.
Thank you, Paramjit ji. Mr. Saxena has a question.
I also have a question after Saxena.
Okay. Yeah. But first we start with Mr. Saxena. Yeah. Should I read that out, or you would like to speak, Mr. Saxena?
Yeah, I can speak very well. Everything is going well, good. With the 6G band, we will have better performance of Wi-Fi. I'm only afraid of all these mesh routers, which are almost there in every home. My video is not there. Yeah. These mesh routers, which are there in every home all over India. India is a big country. I'm afraid about the promoting China. Most of these routers are coming from China, whether you buy it from Amazon, buy it from Nehru Place or anywhere. So how to counter that? We are going to promote China. That's my question.
That's a good question. The only thing which I can say to that is, yes, that you're right. Even if you look at the American manufacturers, whether it is, even the likes of the Ciscos and the HPs, they all have some amount of factories in China. But yes, a lot of them are relocating to Taiwan, which is, which is not China as of now, and I hope it doesn't become China. And but whether they will relocate to India is a big question, because India still, from the SOC and the chip industry perspective, is very, very behind, and we still have a very long way to go. But yes,
Yes.
they are looking at other countries like Taiwan and Thailand and Malaysia, Vietnam to some extent. Maybe India also, because we do have AP manufacturers in India also. The HFCL is a very good example, which is a true Indian bred company, and they were in fact one of the first ones to come out with the Wi-Fi 7
Yes,
AP
yes.
globally. But yes, most of these companies still have their factories in China, and it will
Yes.
take some time. And it's a situation. Do we want Donald Trump for more years, or we don't want Donald Trump for more years? So he's a menace either ways.
Yeah.
He's saying no, nothing to be manufactured in China. वो तो ये भी बोल रहे हैं कि इंडिया में भी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग नहीं करना है, एप्पल को बोल रहे हैं.
हाँ, देखिए.
So it's a double whammy. So you have to...
Looking at the present situation, I was a little afraid about that.
Yeah.
We are, yeah, it's good. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Acha, Pavanji has a question.
Basically, not a question, Vimalji.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to just supplement a point regarding the interference issue which was mentioned.
Okay.
So, although the delicensed bands and the delicensed usages are on the basis of non-interference, non-protection, but if there is an interference to licensed operation, then the WPC and WMO, they have to carry out the monitoring, try to locate the interference, because it is difficult to say whether it is coming from a Wi-Fi hotspot or whether it's coming from some other source as such. So I recall that initially when the Wi-Fi was started in 2.4 gigahertz band, and at that time there was some interference in our 2G 900 megahertz systems as such in Bombay. And Vikramji was not recall that. And it was, nobody was believing that there could be interference from 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi into the 900 megahertz operations of cellular. But when the monitoring was carried out, it was found that some old couple, they have brought a cordless phone, long distance or long range cordless phone from USA, which was given to them by their son, because part of 900 megahertz band is delicensed in USA. And that was the causing the problem as such. So they were not aware that it is not allowed and all this. So these things can happen. So the responsibility for interference to a licensed operation remains with WPC, WMO. And even if the Wi-Fi is on the non-interference, non-protection basis, but still WPC, WMO has to protect the licensed operations. And if there is interference, they have to carry out the monitoring and try to locate the source as such. So that's the only point I want to bring out as such. And now that I have one question as such to Paramjit and also to Vikramji, if they have any information, that are we facing any congestion in the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi at any point? Just for my information. Thank you.
So, Pavanji, just to answer your question, in terms of the interference, and is basically the channel management, which Vikram mentioned, and he would probably know more about it because I'm not as well technically qualified as Vikramji is. I'm more of a business and a sales guy, and but to my best of my knowledge, especially with there was interference in 2.4 and to some extent in 5 gigahertz also. But the 6 gigahertz with its multi-channel operation, then MLM operations, especially for Wi-Fi 7, that really reduces the amount of interference and allows the Wi-Fi operators, to tweak the channel management and, make sure that the interference is to the least possible degree. So that is one of the key selling points, in fact, of Wi-Fi in the 6 gigahertz, which is probably not so much in the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. 2.4, 5 में फिर भी थोड़ा बहुत जरूर इंटरफेरेंस होता है 2.4 में तो डेफिनेटली होता था. I can also vouch for that. Yeah. But like I said, that probably Vikramji would be able to answer better because he's more technically that thing than I am. I'm more of a BD guy.
No. So, interference is from a variety of sources, right? We have had in Delhi, I'm telling you, maybe between 20, almost up to 20% of our BTSs have a challenge because of wideband boosters. What you get, आपको सिग्नल मिलता नहीं है, तो ये जितने, इनफैक्ट देयर आर एडवर्टाइजमेंट्स बाय गर्ल्स हॉस्टल्स और hostels near colleges, with booster Wi-Fi, right? So with WMO, we have done, let's say, in Southex, then also in Agra and all these places, and we got it included as part of the rules now that possession of a wireless device is illegal. Basically, you could buy it off the Amazon or you could buy it off Nehru Place, and the way that he'll sell it. अच्छा, आपको Airtel वाला चाहिए booster, आपको Jio वाला चाहिए, but basically they were boosting the entire band, right? And that was giving us a huge headache because मेरा तो सिग्नल ठीक हो गया लेकिन मेरे पड़ोसी का इंटरफेयर हो गया, right? Now, this is a large scale headache. And we from COI have done, let's say, social media campaigns. We've, written, in fact, a good news is the Department of Consumer Affairs the other day has put out a notice saying that selling of wireless equipment which is not authorized by the DOT/TEC, right? And duly imported under the import license cannot be sold on your web portals or e-commerce portals, right? So in a wireless first environment, I think for the country, for India, it's very important to do this interference management because for us as our members, you are paying through the nose to get spectrum, access spectrum. And if that access spectrum, which I have to monetize because I paid a huge, thousands of crores to get that, and there I have interference. Now in Delhi, for example, 20% of 5G, 4G, 5G base stations. And to that you add my, high revenue areas like airports where C-band is not allowed, right? So interference by itself is a major, aspect which requires attention. I am given to understand, and maybe Garg Saab can update us, that WMO used to lack both the amount of monitoring equipment as well as the number of street on feet. So, because when you go out to monitor and you find something wrong, you actually have to take a police people together. Because the people who have paid money and bought that, कहते भाई मैंने तो खरीदा है, तुम क्यों निकलवा रहे हो, मेरे को सिग्नल दो, right? And it sometimes becomes a law and order problem as well. So there are multiple nuances of this. In fact, let me add to this. Some years back, Connaught Place, मैं वाईफाई पूरा फ्री वाईफाई लगाए थे एक्सेस पॉइंट्स. खान मार्केट में वोडाफोन ने लगाए थे. गेस क्या हुआ एक्सेस पॉइंट्स का? Any guesses?
Yeah, that was a flop show.
No, it was. Reason.
Interference.
I think there were
नहीं,
multiple
सारे
factors.
चोरी हो गए.
Yeah, they got
एक्सेस
stolen, they
पॉइंट
got
चोरी
stolen.
हो गए और कबाड़ी में बिक गए.
अच्छा.
So, even the
It was
location
slowly
of a
implemented and then they got
access
stolen.
point, right? The location of a public access point along with its power supply, because essentially it requires power supply and it will require some kind of backhaul, right? तो बीच में क्या कर रहे थे कि जो दुकान की जो होर्डिंग है ना, एडवर्टाइजमेंट का जो वो खोखा बनता है फ्रेम, उसके अंदर रखना पड़ रहा था कि वो चोरी ना हो. So, there are a variety of things that happen in the market. And in this case, since we are discussing Wi-Fi, so just the Wi-Fi access point, it's nice to say, okay, रूरल में आपका फाइबर पहुंच गया और गांव में आप वाईफाई लगा दोगे and great benefit, PM वानी हो जाएगा. When you go practically, there are a variety of issues which require to be handled.
That's true. Thank you, Vikramji. Actually, Rakeshji had a question. Of course, we have sort of run out of time completely, but since he had raised the hand earlier, so a quick question from Rakeshji.
Oh well, many thanks, विमल जी. बेसिक क्वेश्चन ये है कि जब भी किसी बैंड को ओपन किया जाता है उससे पहले कोई स्ट्रेटेजी होती है. Have we made the study or have we done the pressure? Because 5G and this, I must say, the city guard band, it was a political issue in WRC 23 also. Now, the China versus US and how the China is going to do that, if you open the band for the ISM, if you open the band for the IMT, a lot of issues were there. I also highlighted the things in my personal capacity. Now, the thing is that when they were opening the things, have they prepared the Indian industries to work for this Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 8 patents and the chips? Are just they have everybody is working independently to do that. I agree with Saxena ji. We didn't make any, perhaps so, we didn't make any strategy to do that. When if आप लोगों को शायद याद हो, because I was involved in opening this, working for the opening of the ISM band in India. When US did it, they did it with very clear intention that if we create the ISM band and go ahead, in that particular position, we will furnish the American industry to a new area. What we are doing? Are we making a strategy and doing the things, or simply coming under the pressure of Premji ji or Vikram ji and all those things are working it out? That's the basic question.
Who's it addressed to?
Oh, well, everybody, all our stalwarts. Garg Sahib is there. Vikram ji is there.
Will answer that.
Okay, I'll take that. And
But not a political answer. I want a very crystal clear answer.
I'm not a politician anyhow.
No. Answers are, bureaucrats' answers are always political answers. Round jelly.
As Paramjit ji also mentioned, and to the best of my knowledge, studies were carried out here. Actual measurements were carried out by the team involving Department of Space people, WMO people, and maybe people from CAI or the telecom operators as well on that. The studies were carried out both for Wi-Fi and for the IMT signal. And the conclusion was this study, to the best of my knowledge, was carried out, I think, about 1.5 to 2 years ago. And the Department of Space had concluded at that time that they can coexistence between IMT and the 6 gigahertz uplink for satellite was difficult, was a challenge. Whereas they said that they could live with the Wi-Fi, low power Wi-Fi, and the satellite uplink as such. So this was the conclusion of the measurements and the study, and it was hinted by Paramjit also. So this is what I wanted to add. So I hope it's not a political answer.
No, it's not an answer, sir. What I wanted, whether we took any strategic decision about it, whether Government of India promoted that they have a lot of funds now, they are giving the funds, etc. for development of the patents and the chips and all the Wi-Fi 7, Wi-Fi 8 and going further. Have they done anything? It was a random decision. That's my question. Are we going to promote the Chinese, as Saxena ji was saying? What we are trying to do over where we are up to? We are promoting, are we promoting Cisco? Are we promoting Qualcomm? Are we promoting anybody else? The question is that social benefit is that given. I take it. But when we do that, there has to be comprehensive understanding and thinking what we are trying to do for next 10, 15, 20 years. I think it's absolute zero. The person sitting in the central one, they have not have a cohesive thinking. And Garg Sahib ki responsibility is to batane bhi so ke bhai aap hain wahan pe. So now the thing is that we have to come to that stage to do that. वहां पे बैठ के अपना एंटीना बना पैच एंटीना का डिजाइन करें जो 50 साल पहले हो चुका है. Now the thing is that we have to think of. So that is the major issue. We have to look at geopolitical situation. We have to look at our Indian interest and then work it out. That's not happening. So that's the point I wanted to highlight about it. As far as the second, one thing more, as far as the satellite interference is concerned, our MSS is having the CS interference from the Russia and others from 2.4 because they come on the horizon. Now, can't we 2 gigahertz, 2.6 gigahertz and all those? If we do the Wi-Fi here in the lower 5 megahertz band, 6 gigahertz band, the interference will not be the insert satellites. It will be to somewhere else, where it's on the horizon. Why should we bother about them? Let's take our decision. And when there is a pain to us, they are not bothering. When there will be a pain to them, then we will also think what to do. Tit for tat is the best thing. It's not Mahatma Gandhi हाथ जोड़ के खड़े रहो, एक थप्पड़ मार दे, एक और मार दे. So there has to be strategic thinking. That's the whole thing I wanted to make it.
I think for this, we need to give a deep thought, and maybe we can do it in the phase 2, second part of it, because I can see, Vikramji has received a number of calls in between. He also might be wanting to leave now. So I think we'll close it here, and we can have one more session sometime later. And of course, I would like to thank you all for your participation, and especially today's panelists, Shri Vikram Tewatia, Shri Paramjit Singh, and also Shri Pawan Garg for their outstanding contributions. So thank you all for being here. And now I would request Shri R.K. Mishra, our honorary treasurer, to propose a formal vote of thanks.
Sorry to interject, Vimalji. I think Vipin Tyagi there's a hand raised is there from him. Does he want to say anything quickly as such before the Christian? I see the raised hand from Vipin Tyagi.
Okay, Vipinji.
I think I am actually overwhelmed by the kindness of our President Pawan Garg, because I was thinking that I will never get a chance. The question about the China hotspots, and it's something which has nothing to do with technology and capability and also manufacturing. It is also nothing to do with cost. I can assure you that. It's something to do with momentum and the dynamics of the corporates. CDOT has built multiple times. We also made sure that we match the cost by working with the non-Chinese supplier of the technology. We also did trials everywhere. And today, any one of the industry people want to get that technology, it's available free of cost from CDOT. Build the hotspot. The question is, who's going to sell? Who's going to make the sale of this in the devices, and why? So we talk quite passionately about the Chinese equipment, but we continue to buy because nobody sells. That's what my understanding is, and I'll stop it here. I thought it is pressing enough for all of us to know what is the reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Vipinji. Actually, yes, it's a very important point you mentioned. Technology is available, but maybe it's the numbers, the scale, which really matters. And that's why nobody is picking up the gauntlet. Thank you. Over to you, R.K. Mishra ji, Ravi ji.
Thank you very much, Vimalji and our President Pawan Garg ji, for arranging the timely seminar. For that, a special thanks to both of you and to both the panelists, of course, third Pawan ji also, Paramjit ji, Vikram ji, our sincere gratitude for sparing time and coming and giving your thoughts and enlightening us about the further benefits and challenges of Wi-Fi opening in the 6 GHz band. I express my thanks to all participants for joining today's seminar. At the end, I thank everybody and good day.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good discussion.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's all
Vikramji, can you
switch on the
share your
camera.
presentation?
Vimalji, can you just take a photograph?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm doing
Yes.
that. I'll request everybody to switch on the camera. Goel Saab and Harsh, if you can do. Acha. Okay, we'll take the picture now. So
थोड़ी
everybody,
मुस्कुराहट होनी चाहिए.
जी,
Video is not coming, so you would go ahead without video.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
So,
Thank you.
Vikramji, can you kindly share your presentation because some people wanted that.
I'll send it across to Vimalji.
Thank you
you,
so
sir.
much.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. Have a good
Thank you,
evening.
sir. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoy, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.